All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Hopefully, you guys had a great 4th of July holiday and whatnot. Of course, this is our first live show we've had in about, wasn't it, 14 days or something like that. But anyway, as all of you were enjoying yourselves and enjoying holiday and whatnot, within the last time we talked live, the college football world was falling apart as you were enjoying yourselves. So we'll talk all about that, what's happening with EA Sports and the whole controversy that happened within the last couple of days with College Football 27 releasing the video games. So talk about that. Have some thoughts on Notre Dame and the playoff. Are they actually locked to make the playoff? We'll discuss that. And then we will discuss, continue on with the team record projection series that I think have it on good authority that I believe it's starting to wind down. But when we don't have that much teams left to actually discuss. I think there's maybe like a few more I want to cover, but I think we've probably pretty much done all the teams we want to do. So there is that. I think there might be, again, like a very small amount of teams we still haven't done yet, but I think we're almost done. So we have that to wrap up the show after we cover the other stuff. So if you are new here, of course, welcome to the show. We've actually had an interesting influx of subscribers to the channel. So if you are watching this, if you're not subscribed, which I believe I looked at the statistics yesterday, the analytics and whatnot on YouTube, around 67 of you are not subscribed to the channel, or at least are subscribed to the channel. I believe that's what it is, and then like 30% are not. So if you're not 30%, make sure you are subscribed, and if you think you're subscribed, make sure and double check you if you are. And we do this show twice a week live. Again, this is the first time we're doing a live show in a few weeks. Again, I was on vacation the last 10 days or so. We just couldn't do a show. So we're back live. Our schedule should be back to normal for the most part. So there is that. Again, be sure to follow us on the socials, Instagram, X, and also on Spotify, the audio-only version. You can also get the extra pods over there as well when we do those. We do those every so often. We'll probably do one tomorrow. We'll get it recorded, and we'll do the individual clips that will eventually go on to YouTube. And so those of you, if you don't want to watch the entire show or listen to the entire thing, you just watch the individual clips on YouTube. So there is that way of doing things over there. Again, this is independent media. We have never talked to advertiser before. If you're not, we are not parting with any like organization or anything like that. So this is all free and independent. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep all this free. Okay, I would never put this stuff behind a paywall. That's not how we do things here. And at least for the foreseeable future, that's how things are going to be handled. Okay, so be sure to do all that. And again, welcome back, I guess, to the live shows. I know we've had the pre-recorded shows, but those aren't the same as the live shows. So, all right, let's get into it and jump right in. So, College Football 27, EA Sports College Football 27 has been out for a couple of days. Now, I have myself gotten ahead of the game. I will do my review on that. I'll give my actual thoughts on it, the actual game itself on the Thursday show. So keep an eye out for that. I've been playing it, but we're still, some things I haven't tried yet. So I will give a more cohesive review on that on the Thursday show. But I wanted to discuss this whole EA Sports drama. If a lot of things going on with this. So if you haven't heard, EA Sports, when the game came out, a lot of the content creators and whatnot, and a lot of folks playing the game, didn't realize that EA snuck in microtransactions. Now, they've had microtransactions in the game since they came back, and this is the industry standard, right? You see it in you basically see it in every single major like release from any major studio, right? And they have put microtransactions, or they have had microtransactions in the game since it came back, right? Mostly tied to Ultimate Team, which is basically like a virtual card game where you can buy different players, like historical players. You can have them on your team and whatnot. And most of that stuff you can use either virtual coins, or you can just use your credit card and or a debit card and buy players, right? So that's been in the game since it came back a few years ago. But what EA has done is basically started to slowly implement microtransactions into things that are not really considered anything related to Ultimate Team, right? And they've started to slowly do this with Dynasty. And in Dynasty, what they've done, or what they initially did when the game came out, and again, most of the content creators and all the EA partners were not made aware of this at all. Whatever, EA kept this very, very quiet. Is that they put in or at least they made some changes to the coach progression, right? When you start a dynasty, you can create a coach or choose an existing coach and whatnot. When you do that, when you go to the settings in dynasty, you can choose, at least in the last two games, the first one and the one from last year, is that you can choose how fast you want your coach to progress, right? And I believe the highest level is level 100. So you can do on the settings, you can do slowest progression, slower, normal, faster, and fastest. Well, as it turns out, EA decided, well, instead of allowing the users to have that feature, allow, sort of like how had is or how it's been in the last few years, instead of doing it like that, why don't we put the fastest options behind a paywall, right? Make some more money. Well, apparently, a lot of the EA partners and folks who contribute with or collaborate with EA, a lot of like YouTubers like Bordeaux, were not made aware of this, and they were very mad about this. They were audibly pissed off, and I'm gonna show you guys a little clip from Bordeaux, his video that he a few days ago, and this sort of, if those of you who are not aware of what actually happened, and sort of this is a better way of explaining it. Here's this video sort of going over what has happened. So I'll play part of this, then we'll come back on the other side and I'll give you more information and sort of give you the whole entire story and wrap it up. So here's Bordeaux's video sort of explaining what is happening and sort of his feeling. And look, his feelings here and the way he reacted is what most of the community felt, up to including me. So here, I'll go ahead and play this for you and you can listen to this. Or I guess if you're an audio, or an audio only, you won't be able to listen to this, but anyway, I'll just go ahead and just play this now.
EA is bringing microtransactions to single-player modes, and it is only going to get worse from this very moment. But I believe if we act now, there is still time to make change. I don't care if I never work with them. Again, I feel lied to. I feel betrayed, and I don't believe in the direction the game is going in any longer. You can hate me, you can like me, please just listen to me for a few moments, because what EA is doing with microtransactions is going to ruin single-player modes, Dynasty, Road to Glory. If they don't see any community pushback, it is going to get really ugly. However, it is not too late for them to correct their mistake either. Over the next couple weeks, starting today, you will see hashtag CFB play don't pay across all social medias. I will be putting this under every single post until they address the issue. You can't just sneak microtransactions in, have us creators super excited to play the game, say nothing about it at Chicago, and just expect this to be cool. Expect us to all be so excited.
So I will jump in here and sort of talk about what Bordeaux was mentioning here, how, again, all these guys like him, Not the Expert, all these other big sports YouTubers were flying out to Chicago for that big event. EA had celebrating the launch of the video game, right? So they were all there, and they were not made aware of this at all. And EA, the higher-ups, told the devs and everyone involved in the company saying, hey, don't say anything about this. Just let the game launch and let everyone figure it out for themselves. So, and that's why Bordeaux was really pissed off, because he assumed that the folks at EA would have told him this beforehand, but they did not. They basically hid this from everyone up until release day. So that's what he's basically saying here. And I agree, that is pretty petty and kind of shitty if you ask me, and kind of, yeah, I mean, I'll go on and keep on playing this. But yeah, that's just sort of what he's saying here. And I completely agree with him. That's kind of especially for someone like him who has supported EA and has been a loyal soldier for the company, at least in terms of collaborating with them. Yeah, that's kind of a dick move if you ask me.
And happy about the game still. Nobody is happy. As this has been discovered, I'm just getting more and more upset. Okay, down. Let's get back to what is even going on. To put it very simply, EA has taken a faster XP slider that was in Road to Glory in the previous. They've taken it away. What did they replace it with? Where you can pay them to upgrade your player in Road to Glory a little bit faster. You can pay them to upgrade your coach a little quicker. You just got to get out that checkbook, sign it away to EA, give them some money. It is so upsetting to me just with the way they tried to sneak this in there as well. With the way they've implemented it, it's hard to find. I didn't even know this existed until a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just pause the video there. So
that were tweeting
I think that kind of gives you guys
yesterday on Sunday
pretty good idea of what has happened here. Hopefully, you guys can actually hear that and hear the video and whatnot. But anyway, so I'll keep on going here, and I'll go ahead and show what else has also transpired. So Josh Pate also got involved and decided to chime in, and this is interesting because he brings up something that I think is more or less a bigger issue in college sports right now, and sort of the way the sport's going. So Pate on his X account said this paragraph from Matt Brown, who we will go to his article here in a minute, is excellent, and yet will fly completely under or over the head of the intended audience. So this is an excerpt from Matt Brown, who is a journalist, sports journalist, and this is what he had to say in his article on Extra Points, which I'll show you guys here in a minute what that is. But in his article, he mentions, quote, "Still, I do think that it is important for everyone, from the video game publishers to athletic directors to small business owners, to remember that customer goodwill is not only a limitless reservoir, If you constantly make withdrawals from the bank of goodwill without making deposits, eventually your checks are going to bounce." So basically what Pate is trying to say here is that what EA is basically doing, and sort of what they have done here, is that they just assumed, based on the fact that everyone was receiving the game very well and everyone was so positive about the last two games since it's come back, is that we can just sneak in microtransactions and they'll just go along with it and play ball. But as it turns out, no, that's not the case. Okay, like every single. See, this is the problem with college sports in general, and I think what Pate's trying to say here, when it comes to the whole idea, and he mentioned something later on in his little tweet thread here about the whole ratings are up, or what was it? The quote, "Ratings are up, so everything is fine" crowd needs to pay special attention. What he's referring to is, again, this whole thing about, just because everyone, all the fans and everyone who's been a fan of this product, right? For example, I guess in this case, the video game, is going to accept any change we make, even if it's bad, right? And I think what Pate's referring to is that this is basically going beyond college football now. Like, this is, and something that I have thought about too a little bit, is that this is more or less kind of a representation of how sort of what everything that's wrong with the sport, right? And all this is being driven by the TV oligarchs, all of these money people and whatnot. They don't really care about the sport of college football. They don't. They only care about college football when it's making money. That's the only time they'll care about college football. Is if the ATM is working and they're printing off enough money. They're the ones benefiting off of it while we're suffering. Whether it's a video game or conference realignment or playoff expansion and the calendar being a bunch of bullshit, I worry because Pate has brought up, Josh Pate he's brought up this example before, is that this is what's happened to NASCAR a long time ago, apparently, back in like early 2000s and late 90s, where for a long time you had a lot of loyal fans of NASCAR. A lot of folks would watch all the races and go to the events and whatnot. But over time, as NASCAR began to change and evolve, a lot of fans, loyal fans, were like, nah, this isn't for me anymore. I'm going to stop watching and I'm going to move on to something else. And now, if you really think about it, how many folks do you know personally actually watch NASCAR? How many folks do you know personally actually go to any of these events, whether it's Talladega or the Daytona 500 or the Homestead race down there near Miami? How many folks do you know actually do that? Probably not very many. And that's the direction college football is headed, is that there are so many things happening and so many instances where these college football, money people, or we want to call them oligarchs or lobbyists, think, just because ratings are good and everyone's watching the sport means everything's fine. No, it's not fine. Okay, like just because you're seeing these stats, analytics showing, the TV ratings are really good. This is fine, right? It doesn't matter anything. Anything we do, even if it's negative, they're just gonna eat it and take it. Well, I think the reaction that we have gotten from, especially when it comes to the video game community of college football, I think is a signal to the oligarchs and the lobbyists that all of the decisions that you are making, which is all money driven, is not going to work. Whether it's, again, microtransactions in video games, whether it's conference realignment, playoff expansion, which has, again, infected sports calendar. Folks aren't going to take it. Folks aren't going to shut up and be be quiet about this. They're going to be vocal about it, and they're going to they're going to make it known. So what EA ended up doing, and we'll kind of end on this a little bit. And actually, before we do that, I'm also going to show you guys the full article from Matt Brown over on Extra Points. If you want to go over there, listen, or watch his, or not watch, read his entire article, you can. So I'll pull that up first, and then we'll move on to what EA ended up doing. So let me go ahead and pull up this. Let's see here. Here it is. Let you guys take a look at it. So this is Matt Brown's article. You can go ahead and read here. I believe this is the section here where he talks about, okay, sure, the video game fans are getting mad about this. Why should I care about this? I'm a college football fan. He kind of explains how this is going beyond college football and sort of, represents what's wrong with the sport for the most part. So there it is, Extra Points. Go over there. Matt Brown does a fantastic job over there in doing content. And then I'm going to show you guys this. This is EA's response to the controversy. So I'll let you guys take a look at this. They posted this on social media a few days ago. And, generally this would seem... Actually, whoops, I forgot to... I exited out of the tab. My mistake. Let me pull it back up. Okay, here's what I was wanting to show you guys. This is EA's response. And I just did it again. Okay, all right, let's try that. Again, I accidentally closed the window. Apologies for those of you watching live or listening on Spotify. If you're wondering what's going on, like you can't see what's going on visually, but let me see here. Let's try this again. I made a mistake of closing the tab, so let's go ahead and pull up this statement here from EA. So this is what they decided to do. Okay, so they say in their statement here on X, I'll go ahead and read it off to you for those of you who are listening audibly. If you haven't seen this yet, so EA starts out with saying, "Thank you for your continued passion and an incredible response to College Football 27. We love that this game, we love this game and the sport. College football is and always will be about the sights, sounds, pageantry, traditions, and atmospheres of Saturday. And College Football 27, we aspire to deliver the deepest experience to date with all new Dynasty Blueprint, new possessions of Road to Glory, blah, 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 basically just talking about all the new features in the game." They continue. "However, your feedback on Road to Glory and Dynasty is that we have missed a mark with the introduction of paid progression options." That's the microtransactions. This was added independent of deeper mode progression with the aim to give players more choice. But what you have said is that we are not adding value. We are not adding the value we intended. This tomorrow morning, this was, I believe, released on last Friday, or excuse me, was it last Thursday or last Friday? It doesn't really matter. So they basically say here the next morning we will remove all paid progression options from Road to Glory and on Dynasty. The unfortunate side effect of removing the paid progression is that the players who have college, basically saying if you've already purchased these or you intended to purchase these, you cannot. So they continue on. Our goal for live service plans in College Ball 28 and beyond will deliver valuable features and content with greater transparency and communication. So basically what that statement basically said is that, okay, we'll apologize for bringing in the microtransactions and all the bull crap that you guys had to go through. So we're sorry about that. We'll take those things out. I think they did take them out, but they have not put in the fastest and faster coaching progression for Dynasty. That is still missing from what I can tell. So they did that, which is good. I will, give VA some credit there, but then again, they should have not done this to begin with. Okay, like again, I didn't fully understand microtransactions are a part of the games today. That's how it's always been. It was even part of the game to begin with. But again, that was with Ultimate Team, a part of the game that a lot of folks don't really play. Most folks play Dynasty, Road to Glory, and Play Now. And it's suffice it to say that for EA to put in microtransactions into a major component of the game is strange and kind of odd because, again, like they're EA is not like a company like Rockstar Games that makes GTA. Again, GTA has a lot of microtransactions, but over there it's like, okay, you can kind of get it. Like it's a GTA, the whole Grand Theft Auto series is a very, very advanced, one of the best critical acclaimed video game series ever. So that's understandable, right? Like for a company like Rockstar, like that's understandable. If you want to get extra stuff, you got to pay for it. But for a game like College Football 27 and for a company like EA Sports, they're not on the level of Rockstar or Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption. They're not. They are a much lower tier company. Not to say they suck or anything. Like, trust me, I don't think those developers over there, folks like Scott O'Gallagher and those folks who are very active on Twitter, X, they're very talented at what they do. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying that the hierarchy of video game manufacturers and developers, EA is probably on ladder or on level 3 or level 2. They're not up there with Rockstar Games. So them doing or EA doing a very Rockstar style move and just putting certain things within the main component of the game behind the paywall, that's going to piss off a lot of folks. Okay, so that is sort of the main crux of this issue. But what EA ultimately said in their statement is that yes, we're removing some of this stuff right now, at least for the for the continued life cycle of the game. But they did mention in College Football 28 and going forward, they're going to do this again. Okay, so we need to make it very clear to EA that they are like, just because they can say, "Oh, we're doing it next year," but we'll be more vocal next time. We'll let our contributors and our collaborators know beforehand. That's not good enough, EA. That is not good enough. And for the love of God, do not do this again. Do not put certain things behind a paywall that should not be behind a paywall. Not to mention, too, that there are more important things that you should be doing. Like, for example, focusing on, removing, certain bugs that are in the game this year. And I'll touch more on those on Thursday. But, yeah, this whole situation in general, man, it really does represent the sort of decline of the sport of college football and college athletics in general. The fact that, again, going back to Josh Pate's tweet about the ratings are up crowd just assumes everything's fine, but it's not fine. And just because the ratings are good doesn't mean there's still problems. Of course, there are always going to be problems, and everything's going to be perfect. Okay, so I think that needs to be made clear to EA that just because yes, you fix this problem, do not do this again. Because if you do it again, there's no guarantee that folks will continue to support you and they will move on to something else. Just like what happened to NASCAR back in the early 2000s. So it would be in EA's interest to not do this again and to do a different strategy instead of just putting certain functions of a game that do not need to be behind a paywall. Anyway, hopefully I made myself pretty clear. But shout out to all the folks like Bordeaux, Not the Expert, Eric Wayweather, MMG, other EA Sports personalities who were very, very vocal against this. So shout out to them. Shout out to Bordeaux for getting the hashtag. What was it? I forgot what it was. It was something. CFB play don't pay. I think that's very, very fitting for the situation. So again, shout out to him. Shout out to a lot of the creators who were very vocal of everyone else in the college football community as well. So, yeah, moving right along. I'm going to take a little water break here, and we'll move on to our next little topic here, and then we'll wrap up the show with record projection series with Tennessee on deck next. Okay, Notre Dame. So a lot of folks are very, very hyped up about Notre Dame this year. They returned a lot of talent, of course. They just missed out on the playoffs or last year. They made it they made it to the national title a few years ago, even though they lost to Northern Illinois in a very, very strange upset. So suffice it to say, this year with Notre Dame, a lot of folks, given the talent the talent they have now under Marcus Freeman, the fact that they've have a lot of success under him, definitely a lot more of a higher echelon than what you had under Brian Kelly. A lot of folks are thinking that this year is going to be a very special year, and I can't necessarily blame them because I would somewhat agree with you on that. This is going to be a big year for them. And a lot of folks who are sort of coming back to college football, after the long summer and spring, are probably thinking, okay, so what makes Notre Dame a playoff lock? You think that probably heard that term being thrown around a lot, and it has nothing to really do with the talent necessarily, because the talent is all there. I think it's self-explanatory that they should be one of the best teams in college football in terms of talent-wise, right? They return a lot of big pieces. They've done a really good job in recruiting. But the main reason a lot of folks assume, or are assuming, that they're going to be a playoff lock and they probably should be in the playoffs is that their schedule is very, very workable. Now, of course, we'll eventually do their record projection at some point, so speaking of them, but not to, sound like I'm repeating myself, but their schedule, and I would pull it up here, but I don't have a graphic ready, but I'll just read it off to you if you haven't seen it yet. They have Wisconsin on a neutral site at Lambeau Field where the Packers play. That's on a Sunday, by the way, Sunday evening. I believe this was originally scheduled to be I think this was originally supposed to be a Saturday game, but they moved it, I think. Then they play Rice Food, as Josh Pay calls them. Then they play Michigan State. They have Purdue, North Carolina, Stanford, BYU on the road, Navy, Miami, Boston College, SMU, Syracuse. If you couldn't tell, if you follow the sport like I do, or at least have some knowledge, Notre Dame should be favored in most of these games. And there's only one or two games where they might be like just very small favorites, which would be Miami on November 7th, and then at Brigham Young on October 17th. Those are probably your two games, the two biggest games of the year, because all these other teams on here, like Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, North Carolina, Stanford, Boston College, Syracuse. So what I'm trying to say here is that the reason why they are a lock, and why a lot of folks believe they are a lock, is that their schedule is very workable. It is definitely the most workable schedule in all of college football. Okay, outside of ironically Wisconsin, who they do end up playing, they also have a very workable schedule too. So again, it is kind of this weird thing where it's like, yes, they have a workable schedule and they should be locked into the playoff. But here's the thing, though: if Notre Dame were to lose again, let's say they lose to Wisconsin week 1, basically a quasi home field advantage there for Luke Fickell and company, right? They lose that game and they win the rest of their games. Maybe they lose another game. At that point, they may not be a lock for the playoff. At that point, it does get kind of weird, especially if certain things happen where there's multiple, if the ACC gets multiple teams in, if the Big 12 gets multiple teams in, then that's a scenario where you could see a Notre Dame be left out. And especially if they lose 2 games. I think if they lose 2 games, and it doesn't matter who it is. It could be BYU, Miami, it could be SMU, Wisconsin. At that point, that's where I don't know if they are a lock. Now, again, because of how easy their schedule is and how talented they are, I don't really see a scenario, at least I'm not expecting a scenario, it's where they're going to lose more than 1 game. Okay? And then we'll eventually do the record projection. We'll do more of a cohesive breakdown with Notre Dame. And excuse me for the noise back there. That's the lawn landscaping crews here at my apartment where I'm doing the show from. In the background, so apologies if you're hearing that. But again, looking at the schedule here, it's not really a schedule where if I look at this, and again, it's only 2 teams on here that I would really, really say, okay, those could be competitive games, like BYU on the road and then Miami at home later in the year. And that one's at home, so the whole weather advantage there with a warm weather team going up to basically Big Ten country. Doesn't always work out. So yeah, a lot of folks saying that Miami Notre Dame is going to be a playoff lock. I completely agree. I mean, this is going to be a very, very talented team, and a team that has, again, an extremely workable schedule. A schedule that, again, they're going to be favored in basically all of their games, right? I would be a little bit surprised if they're dogs in any of their games. BYU maybe, but even that one I do sort of caution a little bit. But And I think a lot of folks who are, we'll sort of wrap up with this. I have seen a lot of folks sort of question Notre Dame and going, oh, it's Notre Dame, man. It's like they're always the team that gets the benefit of the doubt. They're, always a team that, a lot of folks, hype up to be this, really good program. And sure, there have been moments where Notre Dame has not been up to the level of competing for national titles. Like, 2017, I believe, 2007 was another bad year where they were, having a losing season. So there have been moments where it happened very good, but to say like stuff like, oh, they're always given the benefit of the doubt. Brother, they were left out of the playoffs last year with 2 losses. Now, granted, I don't think they belonged in the playoffs because, at that point, you should have lose those 2 games. Not to mention your schedule, much like this year, is it's not very strong. It's very favorable. So, to actually say that, oh, they always get the benefit of the doubt. They're always like the golden child, if you will, of college football. That's not necessarily true. There's been moments where they've been left out of the playoff, and a lot of folks are not happy about it. A lot of folks last year thought they should have been in. Now, me personally, do I think they should have been in? I flipped up on it over time. I really don't care. It's like, should lose those games, and that won't be an issue. So, Notre Dame. Again, we'll do more of a cohesive record breakdown. We'll do all the record projection stuff here probably next week. Probably will be one of our last ones, unless we haven't done them yet, which I probably should check. Because we've done so many of these record projections, I cannot recall if we've actually done them yet. I don't think we have done them yet. So that is the one we need to actually do. So there's that. Notre Dame. Locked to the playoff. I think if everything goes swimmingly, again, if they lose, 1 game and that's it, and, beyond that, if they're undefeated or lose 1 game, I think they should be in the playoff. But they lose 2 games again. That's where sort of the, the double-edged sword, if you will, of having a very workable schedule where it's nice to have. And, if you manage it correctly and you're able to, win all those games, and you should be in the playoff at that point. Especially at a, team like Notre Dame. And there are, 2 games on there that you should have, that are going to be challenges like, BYU and Notre Dame. But if you lose both of those games and you end up in a situation where you're being compared with teams in the ACC or even the Big-12, a lot of those range of schedules are either going to be very similar to you or in some cases better. So it's kind of a weird fine line to walk here a little bit. It's very, very strange, a duality there where it's like, yes, they have a schedule that is very favorable and if everything goes swimmingly, they should be in the playoff. They should be one of the teams favored to be in. They should be probably a lock, but it's not a guarantee that you will be in if you lose those games. So again, it's a very, very weird duality here. But anyway, moving right along here, we'll end with this. Again, more of a shorter show today. Kind of what happens here around this time of the year. But I have it on good authority. Once we get towards, fall camp and towards August, we'll be having longer form shows and shows that are closer to an hour. I know a lot of folks probably don't, aren't really over the moon about that, but kind of is what it is at this point. There's a lot of things to cover, especially as we get towards week 1, especially their week 1 special. That bad boy is going to be way over an hour long. If memory serves correctly, it's going to probably be way over an hour long. So just be prepared. During the season, we will have some longer shows. Okay. Anyways, speaking of schedules and whatnot, let's talk about Tennessee. So Tennessee's kind of a weird team here. So, of course, we've been doing the record projection series for the last about 2 months now, I believe. Again, we've done a whole lot of teams. Still, again, a few more we have not done yet. But Tennessee's one of those teams where sort of kind of in a way like Notre Dame, but it's a little bit different because, Tennessee's in the conference and there's a little bit more of a different component with the certain schedule situation that Tennessee sneakily kind of has a workable schedule. Like, it's not like totally easy. I'm not saying they have like, a Notre Dame or Wisconsin style schedule, but there is a certain path here that, as we'll show here on the graphic that I'm going to pull up here, that there is a potential that Tennessee could have a very good year. Now, yes, they do lose a lot on defense, whether it's transfers or NFL draft. They have to figure out a quarterback. Likely going to be someone young. They didn't get anyone in the transfer portal. That was, I think they were trying to go after someone like Sam Leavitt, who was at LSU from Arizona State, so they couldn't really so they don't really have a lot of experience there at the quarterback position. So that is a bit of a concern. But as I talked about before, luckily, the offense that they run, which is of course the veer and shoot stuff, the offense that was created under our Bryles at Baylor, that the offense is not. It's not like hard to learn. It's not like a hard offense to learn, but it is hard to be. At least it's hard to get the knowledge of it, right? It's not like an offense that it's like easy to get access to. So I'm trying to say it's very, very selective on who actually gets knowledge of it. The folks who are behind the offense, like our Bryles' son, Kendall Bryles, it's a very, very, I don't know, it's a very secured operation, if you will. It's not really an offense that a lot of folks have access to learn, but it's not hard to learn. So I'm trying to say. So whoever it's going to be, whether it's the true freshman, I guess I could probably look this up here. I probably should have done this beforehand, but yeah, just to make sure I get their names here. So it's either going to be the McIntyre kid, George McIntyre, or the five-star freshman Faison Brandon, who I'm assuming is probably going to be Faison Brandon. If I had to assume, he sort of fits what the offense is trying to do, right? This offense typically needs a running quarterback to be successful to a certain extent. So I would imagine it's going to be Faison Brandon, or I don't know how skillful the McIntyre kid is. He hasn't really played that much, but I would imagine, and I think the consensus out there, at least leaving spring practice, was that Faison Brandon's probably going to be at least the leader in the clubhouse. But it really doesn't matter whether it's McIntyre or Faison Brandon. I'm just assuming it's probably going to be Faison Brandon. But anyway, so quarterback situation there, not kind of is what it is. Defense, I don't know. They've lost a lot of talent there. They've brought in some talent to sort of supplement that. Chaz Coleman from Penn State is over there, and I believe he got hurt or something. I'm not totally sure what happened there. Yeah, so he got hurt, and he's no longer on the team. So you would have had that, but he's no longer with you. He also brought in Amir Campbell, the linebacker from Penn State, who was coming over with Jim Knowles, who was there last year. So there is some help there, but she ended up not really using one of those pieces because he's no longer on the team. So suffice it to say, defense, I don't know. I mean, could be good. Could be about where it was last year, where you had to get in a lot of shootouts. You had a lot of instances where you were having to win games 44-41. Which, hey, look, for someone like me who loves high scoring games and offense, that's fine with me. I don't really care, but that's not always sustainable. So their schedule, Tennessee's schedule, I'll read it off to you. Again, I would have this pulled up, but don't have a graphic for it. They play an FCS team week 1. They play Georgia Tech. I think they should win both of those games. And they play Kennesaw State. You should win that. Then it gets real in a hurry a little bit. You get Texas at home. You get Auburn at home. You get Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, Texas A&M, LSU, and Vanderbilt. And as you can tell from that schedule there's, again, your tougher games like Texas, Bama, Texas A&M, LSU. But you notice there's no Georgia on there, which for Tennessee fan, breathe a sigh of relief. And then there's the rest of the schedule where you have, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. Those are teams, at least in the Power 4 P2, that you should be favored over. So those are your easier games on the schedule here, which is why, as we pull up the actual graphic here for the record projection, to kind of give you guys what I'm thinking here, sort of the, what I think is probably going to happen with them, at least the 3 options, which if you're new here, we usually do the best case scenario, worst case scenario, and the most reasonable outcome. So I'll go ahead and pull this graphic up. Again, apologies for those of you on Spotify. You're probably like, why is there so many pauses going on? It just is what it is when you're doing a live show and you're trying to pull up graphics and stuff like that. It takes some time. But anyway, so here's Tennessee's record projection here. So the best case scenario, again, based on that schedule I just read off to you, I think 9-3 is a possibility here. I know a lot of folks will probably go, really? 9-3 with all these question marks, especially at quarterback? I understand that. But again, I do trust Josh Heupel. I trust him a lot. He's done a very good job there. So best case scenario here of 9-3 is not out of the realm possibility. Now, the worst case scenario is 6-6. That's mostly because quarterback situations kind of they don't get it figured out. The defense is probably just as bad as it was last year, where they're giving up 30 points per game. So that's a real possibility. Now, the most reasonable scenario is 7-5. I just kind of think that with the quarterback situation sort of where it is, defense probably going to be this sort of where it was last year. Not much change. At least I don't think it's going to be that much change. Even with Jim Knowles coming in, who, look, I don't hate Jim Knowles. Do I think he's some like defensive savant? No, he's not. I don't really think he is. So again, best case scenario 9-3, worst case scenario 6-6, most reasonable 7-5. Again, I just feel like this schedule for Tennessee, at least the way it's structured, yes, there are some tough games on there, and that's, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Like, that is a real problem, but it's kind of a weird situation here where they have a weird mixture of games where they're going to be dogs in for sure, like, Bama, Texas A&M, LSU, Texas for sure. You're not going to be favored in those games, I would imagine. I don't think sites like FanDuel have the numbers out yet for those games, but I would imagine those 4 or 5 games, you're not going to be favorites in it. But then the rest, like, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, you should win most of those games. I would imagine you're going to be favored in all those games, and probably significantly, especially, against teams like South Carolina and Arkansas, Kentucky. Those teams are not spinning the way you are. They're not all the same talent as you do. It's, again, those teams are the take the checks, take the losses type teams in the SEC. So Tennessee, kind of weird, spread there. Again, the best case is 9-3, and then you go all the way to, 7-5 and 6-6. So interesting spread there in terms of the range of possibilities there. And that's it for the show. Again, 40 minutes in. Again, I'm just letting you guys know, once we get into the season, once we start getting and get closer to, week 1, and when we start doing, these longer form shows, these shows are not going to be 41 minutes. I'll just tell you that they're going to be around close to an hour. So buckle up. Season's getting here pretty soon. Camp is going to be starting here within the next, I think, for week 0 teams here around the end of July. So all I'm trying to say here is that we're going to get really busy here soon. With a lot of things to discuss, fall camp reports, things like that. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, as we get closer to August, we'll do our preseason poll. We haven't done that. We did our post-spring poll. We haven't done our proper preseason poll. So we'll be doing that here probably in the next couple of weeks. So just be on the lookout for that. So that's it for the show. We'll have our extra pod tomorrow. We'll do what we've been doing the last few weeks, recording it, put individual clips on YouTube. So if you don't want to listen to the full show, we'll put those clips out on the YouTube channel over time. So we'll try to do that tomorrow, the extra pod. So again, the full version will be on Spotify, but the individual clips will be on YouTube for you guys to divulge. So until our next live show on Thursday, take care and have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys